This you will need cream cheese, Oreos, chocolate chips of any sort, and wax paper. First, you must take your Oreos and put them into any sort of bag to crush them and just simply make them into tiny crumbs. You may have a little bit of difficulty opening the package at first, like I did. It may get a little messy and your bag may pop open, but just do anything you possibly can to mash them. I tried a bunch of different ways, and what ended up working for me was this masher right here, and it did the job to get it into crumbs. Next, you will be adding cream cheese to your mix of Oreo crumbs. You'll mix this until it's nice and thick and a good consistency. You'll just keep on mixing and until you feel that it's properly ready to make it into little truffle balls. I spent a lot of time mixing it because I wanted to make sure that the cream cheese is evenly distributed, and that's honestly your main goal here is just to make sure that Oreos get a good the Oreos and the cream cheese get spread nice and evenly. Next, you'll need a tray that has wax paper on it. You'll just need to spread it out as a single layer, and you're going to scoop up some Oreo and cream cheese mix, and you're simply just going to roll up some balls and just lay them on to the wax paper. Depending on what size you want your truffle balls, I recommend you do them a bit small so it can give up to more truffles. You honestly, it depends on the size that you want them. A good decent amount, kind of small, not too big, but just the right amount of size. You'll kind of see once you're making them how big they probably should be. The package says originally the recipe I used, it would make 42. Mine made like in the 30s using 36 Oreos and an 8-ounce package of cream cheese, but it can differ on the size that you make them, honestly. So just keep on rolling your balls, and you'll see that it's honestly really mushy and really fun to make them. Although if your OCD is a little crazy like mine, you'll spend a little bit of time obsessing over the size a bit too much, and that will probably take you a while, longer than it probably should. It's honestly, this is a quick kind of recipe, except for when you put them in the refrigerator. I recommend making them the night before you want them done. So you can just leave them in the freezer overnight because you will be melting the chocolate chips and coating them on the chocolate, as you will see later in the video, and they will need time to refrigerate and get hardened. So I recommend making these truffles the night before, and that way your chocolate can be all nice and hard and wonderful and tasty and yummy. Yeah. So now I have all my truffles done, all the little balls rolled up. Next, you'll need to boil some water and get a glass container to put on top to put the chocolate chips on. I had to compromise and use a square um, glass metal thing over my boiling pan. It worked perfectly fine, honestly. No need to get those fancy little circle pans that fit right into your pot, because a square one will work perfectly fine even if it is laying over the top. Just be careful because you might burn yourself a little with the steam, but it's honestly not like a really bad thing. It's just a little heat that gets to you. No big deal at all. It's cool. It takes a little while to melt the chocolate if you pour it all at once. It's probably a bit smarter not to do what I did and pour little by little at a time. And melting it isn't the hardest thing in the world, really. Just mix around the chocolate while it's burning. And here, a good song came on. I started dancing a little. Well, just honestly mix around the chocolate until you see that it's nice and smooth and rich and it's warm, because you really want to make sure it's warm. And by the way, in the meantime, while you're melting the chocolate, make sure that your truffles are freezing. And I like to party while I cook and flip my hair. I don't know what I was doing, honestly, while I was making this. I was just in my groove, in my zone. But yeah, make sure your truffles are. I cracked myself up. Oh my gosh. I need better dance moves. But yeah, make sure they're freezing, not in the refrigerator, in the freezer. I think this was a five-star song, honestly. You can only dance so much while melting chocolate. So you're going to want to get your nice little balls out of the freezer. Once your chocolate's all melted, and make sure it's nice and hot. And you're going to kind of want to move a little bit quickly on here, because you don't want your chocolate to get cold, because then trust me, it makes the job a lot harder. And make sure your balls are really nice and cold. If you have two batches like mine, stick the second batch in right away, because the colder the balls, it's so much easier with the chocolate. Because if the chocolate starts getting cold and then your balls aren't that cold, aren't that warm, yeah, aren't that cold, they kind of end up becoming the mush again, and the balls kind of break up, so it makes it a lot harder to kind of put it all together. But really, what you're just going to do is take a ball, put it in the chocolate mixture, and just roll it around and make sure it's all covered in chocolate to make a nice little truffle that you just see in stores, honestly. It's exactly how it turns out, trust me. And just make sure every little piece is covered. You don't want a piece that's just like chocolate's missing, because then you'll just have a little empty spot and OCD will get to you, because that should have been covered with chocolate. So just keep on doing that and make sure they're all covered nice. And once you're done with a ball, put it back on the tray. It's okay if chocolate gets around everywhere. If you want, make a nice little like swirly design on the top, only if you want to make it kind of a little bit decorative. Because the chocolate will harden that way and it will stay in that same form. It looks so cute. Also, for decorating, if you want, you can crush up a few more Oreos at the beginning and just like sprinkle on the crumb powder on the top. I personally didn't do it. I didn't really feel the necessity to do it. But if you want to be more decorative, sprinkle on some more crumbs on the top. Your call, of course. So just make sure everything's covered up nice and smooth, and you should be good to go making your little truffles. Trust me, this really isn't that hard. It's a nice, simple, no baking recipe that you can do. No oven required. Yes, there is a stove required to melt your chocolate, but you could do that in the microwave if you don't want to mess with the stove. It's probably nice, something that you can do with little kids, because it's just rolling around chocolate, smashing stuff. They should be easily entertained with this kind of thing. And it shouldn't be really anything hard to do. I had a little girl helping me make them too. You didn't see her in the video because she wasn't video ready. I mean, I wasn't that video ready, but hey, You gotta do what you gotta do, my friends. So I have really bad OCD, and I didn't realize at first that you could get the chocolate all over the wax paper. But as long as you have enough chocolate, it doesn't really matter because it's just gonna end up going on all the balls, and you'll probably have a little bit of leftover chocolate. I got 2 bags of 12 ounces, I think it was, of chocolate chips, and honestly, that was probably like the perfect amount because a lot of the chocolate like doesn't come off the spoon, and it's hard to get onto the balls, and yeah, probably 24 ounces is the best way to go. I know it seems like a lot, but trust me, when you're rolling them around, you start to panic and think maybe this isn't going to actually make it through. Just as long as you don't put too much chocolate and you just like get it covered, you'll be fine. This is what the chocolate ends up looking towards when you're done, but I just wanted to give you a look of what the chocolate looks and kind of how to roll it around. It's really simple. Honestly, just roll, pour a little bit over, make sure it's covered, and you're good to go. Maybe it takes a few tries to get the chocolate like really covered good, but it's really simple. Once you're done with that, you're just going to take it, scoop off chocolate not to get a mess all over the counter, and plop it onto the wax paper as I was telling you. It may get a little bit messy with extra chocolate in there, but it if those get attached, you can just break off the chocolate easily once it's done freezing and it's hardened. Now make sure they go into the refrigerator when you're done so your chocolate can get hard and pretty. Pardon my lack in not using the camera right and being upside down, but this is how it looks once they're hardened and done.